Both sides justify the attacks by saying the pressure will create a better situation for peace talks. Arian Pastor, NTD News.
China is ramping up military activity across the Pacific, test launching an intercontinental ballistic missile. This comes as U.S. allies move to strengthen their own defenses. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has more.
The timing isn't subtle. Just hours after Australia and Fiji signed a landmark defense agreement promising to come to each other's aid if either nation's attacked, China launched an intercontinental ballistic missile from a nuclear submarine into the South Pacific. Australian officials say Beijing notified them ahead of the launch, but still condemned the move.
Australia has been clear with China that we regard this as destabilizing to the region.
Australia's new agreement with Fiji is its latest effort to strengthen military partnerships in the Pacific to counter China's growing influence, after signing similar deals with Papua New Guinea and Vanuatu.
There's no higher obligation than to come to each other's aid at a time of need.
Meanwhile, this week, China and Russia are holding joint naval exercises off of China's eastern coast near Qingdao, part of an annual military partnership that both countries are demonstrating their strategic cooperation. But Taiwan is watching this closely in case China decides to turn one of these routine military drills into an actual attack. Taiwanese officials are tracking more than 100 Chinese military ships currently operating across the First Island chain. And Taiwan is also reviving its anti-communist patriotic classes for military graduates for the first time in nearly 25 years. They say future officers need a clearer understanding of the threat posed by Beijing.
It has been an area of competition, of course. The PRC continues to champion their form of socialism and communism, while in Taiwan, we stand with our belief that economic freedom, market economics, in addition to the political freedoms that are so important to our society, are really what delivers to the needs of the people.
Now, taken together, tensions across the Indo-Pacific are accelerating, with countries in the region preparing for a more confrontational future. For NTD News, I'm Jack Bradley.
These military activities campaigns. A federal grand jury in New York is investigating Singham over suspected financial crimes. Meanwhile, OpenAI says it uncovered a suspected Chinese influence operation that used ChatGPT-generated content to amplify online opposition to AI data centers in the U.S. A Tibetan man who set himself on fire outside the United Nations headquarters in New York has died. New York police say he died from severe burns. He has been identified as Lobga Ranzan, an Uber driver. The Voice of Tibet media outlet says he set himself on fire in a call for Tibetan independence. Fellow community members say he was distressed over China's new ethnic unity law, which took effect this week. The law has sparked concerns globally, as it could give Beijing greater justification to target people beyond its borders. Under the law, anyone outside China's borders could face legal action if the regime thinks they have threatened national unity or incited division. The State Department responded, saying the U.S. is ready to safeguard its sovereignty. It added that it will defend individuals from regimes seeking to silence them within U.S. borders. Taiwan is testing how ready it is for its worst-case scenario, a Chinese attack, a blockade, and a major natural disaster all happening in quick succession. This week, officials stage a large-scale drill to boost the island's readiness. It comes as Beijing steps up military activity around the island. Here's more.
Taiwan held a major war preparedness drill this week. It simulated scenarios including a blockade, a strong earthquake, and a full-scale invasion by China. More than 370 government and military officials took part in the exercise in Nanzhou County. They tested whether they could keep the mountainous area functioning under combined military attack and natural disaster. It is part of President Lai Ching-te's push to boost Taipei's readiness as Chinese military pressure increases. Chih-Hsien is the minister overseeing the two-day drill.
Everyone needs to have a sense of crisis awareness. While we all strive for a peaceful and comfortable life, we must also be prepared and develop the ability to protect ourselves when our country faces a disaster. I think people's mindset is starting to change. After all, if you're not willing to defend your own country, then who else is going to defend it for you?
The drill began with tabletop planning. followed by field exercises that included downing an enemy drone and setting up food ration stations. Then a simulated earthquake added pressure, forcing officials to manage deaths, infrastructure damage, unrest, and wartime planning. The drill also tested how local authorities would counter information warfare. A bureau chief who led a community response team said Taiwan must be ready to counter AI-driven disinformation if China attacks. As the drill ended Thursday, Taiwan said China staged another patrol around the island with warships and at least 22 military aircraft.
India and Japan are boosting their defense, tech, and supply chain ties to strengthen security in the Indo-Pacific. The move comes as China expands its own military and economic pressure across the region, adding urgency to efforts to protect key sea routes and industries. Both leaders emphasize resilient supply chains and the need to keep sea lanes open across shared waters. They also voiced shared concern over rising tensions in the East China Sea, South China Sea, and broader regional waters. Those areas have seen growing maritime activity and escalating territorial disputes with Beijing in recent years. China responded Friday, saying such partnerships should not target third countries and should instead support regional stability. But Beijing's actions tell a different story. Earlier this week, it expanded export restrictions on rare earth minerals targeting Japanese defense firms. It has also tightened controls on rare earth exports to the U.S., India, and other countries in recent years, fueling broader trade tensions. These moves are widely seen as increasing pressure on global supply chains it already dominates. Beijing has also increased military activity around disputed waters in the Indo-Pacific and the Taiwan Strait. Tensions with neighboring countries there have repeatedly escalated in recent years. India and Japan are both members of the Quad with the U.S. and Australia, an alliance that's vital to maintaining balance in the Indo-Pacific, including around Taiwan.
交易不是凭运气，专业及时的筹码分析，现在免费送你看。
指名道姓。那中间那个叫做柯立芝啊 ，Kevin Coolidge， 这个人的经济纲领就是后来共和党的模范样本。然后呢，1980年代的雷根把这个1920年代这个共和党的总统柯立芝的照片挂在白宫里面作为偶像啊？为什么？因为柯立芝的政府，他那个主张就是小政府减税、去管制、控制货币供给，然后呢，这个创造一个有利于企业的环境，完完全全就是60年后雷根的政策。所以呢，那个时候共和党的经济政策有助于企业去推动投资创新然后呢造成技术革命然后新兴产业崛起。你知道1920年代我们知道1990年代有 IT 革命，可是70年前的1920年代是汽车工业革命。那时候汽车工业崛起，然后这个产业革命到最后到1929年的时候泡沫化破掉然后90年代的时候那个网络跟 PC 最后也是泡沫化破掉所以呢几乎可以认定技术革命带来的经济荣景最后会走向过度乐观，市场过热，最后泡沫破掉泡沫化跟泡沫破掉。我们现在在 AI 的前期就估计将来非常可能复制这个历史，就是到最后 AI 还是泡沫化，泡沫破掉，但是 AI 本身不是泡沫，技术跟应用不是泡沫，但是那个行情、那个价格、股价那个可能那个是泡沫，会泡沫化不过这是后面的事情我们现在还不用担心这个。但讲回来就是当时胡活那个年代胡活应该是28年那一次那2024那个可能就是柯立芝但不论如何，胡活他是在斯坦福大学，他是念地质的。我去斯坦福大学的时候，他们有个胡活研究所然后那在里面他们很高兴说我们的这个毕业生当了总统嘛所以他们把他这个好像供在那边然后瞻仰干什么？我后来发现不对这个总统就是后面开启大萧条的那个总统胡活1932年开始就是出现大萧条，然后由谁出来？罗斯福嘛所以罗斯福胜选，1932胜选，1933开始那个上来嘛，民主党，然后在罗斯福任内他一直当选嘛，一直选上嘛，所以二战结束后美国才修法，说总统连任只能2次，总统当选只能2次，那个罗斯福当了好几次一直当到他死在任上这样子，所以呢变成说共和党的政策最后带来技术革命， 然后呢经济那个大繁荣，最后呢变成非理性繁荣，过度乐观，然后泡沫破掉，泡沫破掉以后，民主党上来收拾残局。这样的一个以政治经济学为背景的这个历史循环，在美国已经一演再演。那所以你提到的胡佛，能不能把责任说成是他造成那个经济萧条？不是啊。
那这次这个伊朗的事情，为什么川普会有点担忧？说如果继续封的话，
川普的很多担忧通常是一种恐吓，也是一种警告。要别人听他的如果你不听我的话，可能会怎么样糟糕这是他的一贯的那个表达方式是这样，所以他对中共也是要警告你不然的话我会怎样，所以呢讲狠话讲硬话其实是希望别人能够采纳他的那个意见那个配合他的这个操作是这样子你如果不怎样的话，我就怎样类似这种口气都带有威胁性警告性这种这是川普的表达方式了。所以他主要的目标现在毫无疑问就是让荷姆兹海峡恢复自由的开放的通航这也是符合当初安倍讲印太地区的时候加的形容词，叫做自由的开放的印太地区。他讲印太地区并不是只有讲这4个